Welcome back to episode... Hell, Cody, I don't know what episode this is. We hadn't done There's the Bell podcast in a while, man.
Yeah, it's been about a month or so, I believe.
If not, a little bit over. We just been really busy. We were going to try to get one out before McGregor and Mayweather. Of course, that didn't happen. We really tried that week, but it was just both of our schedules couldn't match up. But we're going to try to get them back out more consistently. We really wanted to talk about that fight, really wanted to break it down, but we just couldn't do it, so we want to apologize for that. But just speaking off of that, Cody, I know that we're a month removed from this now, but I thoroughly enjoyed that boxing match, and I was very entertained, and it was well worth my money.
Here comes the money. Yeah, I thought it was okay. The outcome was what I thought it was going to be. I wasn't surprised at all.
Well, were you surprised that McGregor actually... I'd say he won at least 4 rounds. You could argue 2 others were pretty close, you know. I was surprised that he put up that kind of fight, personally.
I wouldn't say he won. I thought this boy was just trying to get his timing down because he knew he couldn't knock him out.
Yeah, it was...
And then he's letting him punch himself out at the same time. You know?
Yeah, Floyd's a great fighter. It was a very how do I put it, spectacle, and I was entertained by it. So, you know, kudos to both guys, and let's hope we see McGregor in the octagon once again very soon. We heard rumors that was probably going to be towards the end of 2017. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he'll sit out the remainder of this year. And
well, they're in talks for January. I'm sorry. December 30th start. It might be January 30th.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, if that's the case, who's he rumored to fight then? Is it Nate Diaz? Is it?
Yes, Nate Diaz. Both sides are in talk right now.
I'm sure they'll make that happen, and because that was a huge fight both times, and they broke pay-per-view numbers and stuff like that for the UFC. So,
and people are on there talking about it and saying they don't know Nate Diaz. People that don't watch UFC, people that only watch Conor McGregor, say that they don't know about Nate Diaz fighting at 155. That's where Nate Diaz fights at. Nate Diaz is a lightweight. He fought at lightweight and welterweight, but more fights at lightweight than welterweight.
The last fight he had was Rafael dos Anjos in that division, right?
Yes, I want to say so.
Now, how many years ago has that been?
No, I'm wrong. The last fight he had in that division was, man, damn it, black guy that just fought Justin Gaethje. The hell is his name?
About how long ago did he fight in that division?
Ooh, that was probably 4 months before the first McGregor fight.
Okay, so around November of 2015.
Yeah.
2015, 2016.
No, 15.
2015. Yeah, so almost he'll be if that's the case, he'll be about two years removed.
Michael Johnson.
Who was that?
Michael Johnson, that's his name.
He fought Michael Johnson 2 years ago in the lightweight division. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that'll be a problem for Nate Diaz. He's in such good shape, and you know, he's a guy that can fluctuate. So I think that'll be no problem with him. I'm glad they're moving back down to 155. I don't want to see him fight at 170 again.
No, I think he'd be better off at 155.
Yeah, I mean that's where obviously Conor looks his best at. Nate has done his best work in that division. So let's see what they can do and let's see what they can do in the lightweight division.
Conor looked unstoppable against Eddie Alvarez. That's the best he's ever looked.
Yeah, I mean he looked awesome, and of course Nate has made his name in that division for a while now. Let's move on to a little bit of WWE news. No Mercy. Well, let me first off state this: that it's been a while since we've talked any wrestling. I think the last show we probably did was before Great Balls of Fire, which was way back in July. So we missed out on SummerSlam, which was obviously a big card. And No Mercy was built up pretty well this past Sunday. Of course, it was headlined by the Monster Among Men, Braun Strowman, against the Beast Incarnate, the WWE Universal Champion Brock Lesnar. What were your thoughts on the main event, the entire event as a whole? Whatever, speak your mind.
felt on Braun Strowman. I didn't like that they had the Cruiserweight Championship match so late in the card, which I know they've always had. To me, I'm sick of seeing Enzo Amore. He drives me insane. So, you can't tell me that Neville, the guy's name slips my mind, Max, who am I talking about? The guy wrestled in all the pre-shows for the belt a couple times tonight.
Akira Tozawa.
No, the other guy.
Austin Aries.
Austin Aries.
He's not with. He's no longer with.
Yeah, I know he's gone now.
Yeah.
They put on better matches than Enzo Amore could ever think about putting on. So why would you put them that high in the card if you know, him and Austin Aries deserved a spot higher in the card than what they had.
You know what I actually think that was is, and if you look back at the way the card was built, of course Lesnar and Strowman was the main event, so they're going on last. And the next biggest match on the card was Reigns versus Cena. That's Roman Reigns versus John Cena. And so I think that they put that match in there kind of as a buffer, as a cool down match, because they knew the crowd was going to be hot for Cena and Reigns. So they wanted to let the crowd come down a little bit and put Enzo and Neville in that spot. And then, of course, they can come back up for Strowman and Lesnar, because it's hard to have three very, very hot matches back to back, and a crowd just can't stay awake for that long, you know.
I would agree with that if it wasn't. It was like it usually is, but not having John Cena and Roman Reigns, and right behind them, Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar. I mean, who couldn't get up for that?
Well, and you have a point right there, and I also want to state to your point that I don't know if you watched Raw last night or if you finished watching it, but they closed the show out. They closed the show out with the Cruiserweights and Enzo and Neville. So, and speaking to your point about Enzo, I'm getting to where I really want to hate this guy, and that's because we've heard a lot of backstage news about him, how he was kicked off the tour bus by Roman Reigns for so-called disrespecting the company. You know, and we try to wade through this stuff. There's no way to know if this exactly happened because the boys aren't talking about it. But reports are that they were overseas and they were on a tour bus, and it was really late one night, and Enzo Amore was on the phone in the front of the bus. You know, he was complaining about how tough their schedule was and how he wasn't getting much sleep and had to do this and that, but he was bragging about how much money he was making and how much merchandise he was selling. So the boys were obviously getting pissed about that, and Roman Reigns, who has kind of transitioned into, I guess, a locker room leader, kind of taking that role from the Triple H, Undertakers, and John Cena's. He's kind of got that role now. He apparently kicked Enzo Amore off the bus for that. So I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on that tour bus when that happened. But point being is, yeah, man. Point being is that I'm really. I'm not so much a fan of his anymore. He's a great talker. He entertains me, but he entertains me in a way where I want to see him get his ass kicked. So I was kind of
grab him and shave his head.
Yeah, for sure, shave his head. I was kind of glad that they went with that angle last night, although it kind of confused me. You know, did they officially turn him heel? Is Neville turning face? But you grew up watching wrestling in the late '80s. You remember how the Honky Tonk Man was the Intercontinental Champion for over a year, right?
Yeah.
And he couldn't work worth a shit. But people paid because they wanted to see him get his ass whipped. So, I don't know, you know...
I'll say that, too. Really, nobody could really work back then. Not like they do today.
Yeah, you know...
Like, you had Hogan and Warrior and...
Savage.
Pretty much you two were the main ones that could really go.
Savage,
too, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Flair, of course, but Honky Tonk Man was a mid-carder at best, but that's what you had your Intercontinental belt on. And it was mostly went on families back then.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
Like the Wyndhams and the Von Erichs, and see, him and Jerry Lawler are a family.
Right. You ever heard of his shoot promos, by the way?
Yeah.
God, that dude loves to talk some shit.
Oh, yeah, he does.
You know, I don't know whether to love him or hate him, but I'll listen to him because he's certainly controversial and he's not afraid to speak his mind. So,
he's kind of like Cornette.
Yeah, Cornette. Who? I'd love to hear them in a debate. But you know, but that's the kind of way I think they're putting Enzo as right now. So we'll see where that goes. I'm 100% in agreement with you. Enzo Amore can't touch Neville in the ring. I don't think many people can, to be honest with you. He's such a good worker. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where they're going with this guy right here. So other than that, let's talk about Reigns and Cena real quick, because obviously that was a big ordeal. And then we'll transition into the main event of No Mercy, and then we'll kind of finish up with wrestling. But Roman Reigns defeated John Cena, and you know, they kind of made it out to be like it was a passing of a torch type moment. But it really didn't feel like that to me, because I know Cena's going to step away for a couple of months, and I think he's going to go film the new Transformers movie, if I'm not mistaken. Have you heard anything on that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to star in the next Transformers movie, which might be filming now. So he's going to step away for a little while like he's been doing, go back to Hollywood. But they kind of played it out like you might not ever see him in a WWE ring again. And we just know that that's not the case. He'll be back by the Royal Rumble, and he'll be in a WrestleMania program.
Yeah, well, you know what he said. He said, you know, I'm not stepping away completely. I just can't keep up like I always did.
And that's bringing a sort of realism into it as well.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts?
At least he understands that too. He's not going to do something and get himself hurt.
Right. And that's the last thing we need is John Cena getting hurt and being out for WrestleMania. What were your thoughts on the match and just kind of the moment, how they tried to pass it off as?
I thought it was a great match. I liked that these two guys, they made it seem like they were larger than life, you know, using all the finishers that they did and going through the table and, you know, to make them look like superheroes. It was really a good match and a good look for Roman Reigns to get the win like he did. Now he's got wins over The Undertaker and John Cena. You kind of set him up, and the crowd was actually kind of behind him.
Yeah, they were. They were. Now they cheered heavily for Cena too, especially at the end. But I'm in agreement with you. I think it was a good match too. I think that these two can do way better. I think that if they will wrestle a few more times throughout their career, and probably even at a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, a big card like that. But I thought it was a good match. I don't love all of the kickouts on the big finishers and stuff like that. I think that there's a time and place for that, but we're seeing that more and more in pro wrestling now across the board and not just in WWE. So I kind of understand it, but it also feeds into a lot of Reigns' critics, how it doesn't matter what you can do. You can give him a tombstone pile driver off a Hell in a Cell. He's going to kick out at 2 3/4. So I don't know how many AAs John Cena ended up giving him last night, but it was 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
one off top rope.
Yeah, one off the top ropes. It was quite a lot, but not the biggest.
I think they got 2 3 spears too.
And
but these two guys, I don't use it like that either. But with these two guys, I mean, you kind of expect that. And it really doesn't bother you as bad as it was like
right.
Anybody else in the business.
So Cena's going to step away for a little while. Roman is kind of there again, pushing him more and more to the forefront. It seems like fans are accepting him a little bit more. He's great in the ring. One of the best. He's one of the best, not only in WWE but in the world as far as the ring goes. Me and you are both in agreement with that, and he has grown so much since he's first broken up with the Shield all the way till now, as far as the in-ring goes.
I listened to Finn Balor talk about him. He's like, you know, I was kind of nervous going in there with him at first. He said he's so big and so strong and so fast. He said, you know, it was like a cakewalk. He said he made me really good in there, and he's one of the best people I've ever been in the ring with. And Finn Balor says that, you know, he's been around with a bunch of different guys.
Yeah, he's been all throughout Japan and stuff. Real quick, oh, by the way, yeah, I mean, talking about his promo abilities, they've started improving. Him and Cena were cutting hella promos, but I think, you know, that's just a great compliment to Cena that he can elevate a guy like Reigns, who's not traditionally a great talker, up to another level. I think that speaks to Cena's ability, but yeah, I mean, yeah, they took the hand.
Let him go out there and let him do what he does.
They let him go out there, and it didn't feel scripted. So
it was like they told him sink or swim, you know.
So,
It's your time.
what's the big picture for Reigns? We know that he's going to be back in the Universal title hunt. Are they, I mean, is it just so obvious that it's going to be him and Lesnar at WrestleMania?
I think so. I really don't like that. I don't see why Lesnar still needs the title.
Well, let's transition into that. What did you think? You thought Braun Strowman should have won the Universal Championship. Tell me why.
Because of what he did at SummerSlam, of what he comes out there and does every week. He's my favorite wrestler now.
Yeah,
The guy is so
he's
strong
awesome.
and so fast and just, I don't know.
He's
Something about him. Reminds me of old days. You know?
he reminds me of Kane whenever Kane first came on the scene.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like it's almost like a Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant mixed together.
Yeah, I mean, is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? He's put on some phenomenal matches this year. I wouldn't have minded seeing Braun Strowman win the belt Sunday, and I wouldn't have complained at all. But I don't necessarily think he needs the belt right now. And I think that ultimately, if they decide to go Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for that Universal belt, that the story is already built in right there because of what happened at WrestleMania 3 years ago when Seth Rollins did the cash-in during their first match. And so that's kind of where I think they're going with that. Either way, you know, I think Braun Strowman is a star, and he's obviously a big part of the future of the company, and he's going to get his time. So I'm not even so much worried about that. What did you think of the actual match itself?
I thought it was okay. I thought the build-up was better than what the match ended up being.
Yeah, and it was kind of similar to what happened with Samoa Joe, in that I felt like it was too short. It was really intense, but then again, it was a little too short. And this has kind of become a thing with Brock recently. And I hate to call the guy lazy, because he's put on great matches since he's come back. He's been in the ring 20 minutes with guys like CM Punk and Roman Reigns and John Cena. But here lately, kind of ever since they did the whole thing with Goldberg, he's just been put in shorter matches.
Yeah, I don't know what the reason is. He used to go.
And I don't necessarily think it's not because he can't go. I don't know. I would like some sort of explanation on that. Because I feel like that while his matches with Joe and Strowman were good, they would have been elevated to another level if you would have given them about 5 to 10 more minutes, you know?
Correct. I agree with you.
Look, let's touch on the last bit of wrestling news, because you got to get home and you got to take your son to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So let's knock the rest of this out real quick. Man, WWE has a hell of a story going on with Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon, huh?
Yeah, they do. It's almost like they're trying to make it the Stone Cold and Vince of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and that angle where Owens headbutted Vince McMahon, and you know, obviously the blood was drawn. Then he super kicked him, and then frog splashed him. It was kind of hard to watch because the guy's 72 years old.
Yeah, Vince said they're taking bumps still.
Yeah, but you know, that just goes to show you what kind of guy he is, and that he's willing to do pretty much anything to put a talent over. So I'm really excited for this matchup, and I can't wait to see these guys in Hell in a Cell.
Me too. I think Hell in a Cell is going to be a great card also.
Cody, look, man, I know you got to get in the store. I know you got to do some things. We're not going to keep you much longer. I just want to obviously get your opinions on this. We had to talk about this because it's what's going on in the world right now, and a lot of people we know are posting on Facebook and stuff about this. Protest Sunday in the NFL. Just shoot from the hip. Tell me what you think about it. Anything with that?
I'm not watching any games at all.
So you're one of these ones that's completely boycotting NFL, right?
Yeah, I'm done with them. I mean, to me, it's their job to play football. They get paid to play football. That's their job. They sign a contract. I can't go to work, and when my boss tells me to go do something, I just take a knee and say, no, I'm not going to do that. because I get fired. They have no right to take a knee during the national anthem while they're at their job. What they do in the press conferences after their job, what they do during the week while they're not at their job, they still have a platform and they still have a voice because they're professional athletes. But don't do it and disgrace your country and the people that it fought for.
Excuse me, I don't have that so much of a problem that they're NFL players and they're doing it right before the game. To me, the games are still getting played. Look, I love football. I love this country. I don't love football more than I love this country, but at the same time, I recognize that people have a First Amendment to do stuff like that. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's disrespectful. I think it's wrong. I really don't. I don't really understand the message either. I don't. It started out with Colin Kaepernick was kneeling because he wanted to protest police brutality against African Americans, against more specifically black males. I don't really see the correlation with kneeling during the national anthem and that specifically. So that's another kind of issue I have with it.
Well, I told a black guy that I used to work with on Facebook, and he's like, don't let all these people just overshadowing what he's trying to get across, and it is. He's 100% right. The point that he wanted to make, that he was trying to say that they were oppressed in this country and they're getting a bad rap and police brutality against black males. Well, nobody's talking about that anymore. They're talking about him taking a knee. They're not talking about police brutality.
And I agree with you.
You wanted to protest about.
I agree with you 100% on that one right there.
When if he would have just went and talked about it, it would have been a whole different story. You know what I mean?
I have an issue with this because I've been getting on Facebook a lot and social media, and I've been seeing people make posts on there, and I'm not going to call out names. You probably know some of these people. I'll completely respect your opinion if you want to boycott the NFL. That's fine. But I hear people making posts about there. If anybody's watching the NFL, they're not a real American and all this other stuff like that. Look, I don't agree with that. I don't support those players taking the knee during the national anthem. But that's not going to stop me from watching, number one. And number two, who's to say I can't watch to support guys like Alejandro Villanueva from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's a veteran. He's a U.S. Army Ranger. He was the only one that came out of his locker room and stood with his hand over his heart for the national anthem for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who's to say I can't watch it because a guy like Drew Brees is going to stand there for the national anthem, or Tom Brady, or Cam Newton, or J.J. Watt? That's.
Tom Brady joined in the first step this week.
No, well, Tom Brady didn't kneel. Tom Brady locked his arms with a bunch of his teammates, but they all stood for the national anthem, and he actually did have his hand over his heart too. So I think that's some more confusion than what people are getting on. I guess locking arms with the teammates was a form of protest, but
yeah, it's not as disrespectful as kneeling.
It's not kneeling. I don't know, man. I'm kind of getting fed up with all of it, and I kind of just wish it would go away because, for one thing, it's taking up my Facebook timeline.
And everything you see on there.
And
I never watched it a whole lot anyway, me, personally.
Yeah.
I watch the Saints, I'd watch, the games at night on Thursdays and Sundays, but I like college football, that's my thing.
And I'm more,
I don't care about the NFL.
And I'm more like that too. I'm getting more towards I like college football because it just seems like it's much more pure and stuff like that. But we'll kind of end it on this note, man. I mean, I just kind of. Yeah, we'll go ahead. But the final thing I'm just going to say is that I wonder if all these people who are boycotting right now will be watching the Super Bowl come this January.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Well,
how people get on social media and just say things because they want everybody to see it.
Yeah.
I've never once got on there and say I'm boycotting football because I don't care if anybody sees that I'm boycotting football. I'm doing that for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm tired of seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm really not boycotting because I'm against what they're doing. I'm boycotting because I'm tired of seeing them disrespect this country.
Right. And
people say it's their civil right to do what they want to do. And yes, it may be. But in that guideline, NFL rules, it has a rule saying that you are to stand on the line with your helmet under your left arm. So that's a rule of the it's kind of like a job requirement of theirs. It's in their rule book. So that's rules that they have to follow, just like with the shoes and the stickers on the helmet and everything else. But they're letting them get away with it. If I break a rule at work, I know what happens. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like they're scared to do anything to them because of what they worry about everybody in the NFL bucket and going on strike.
Yeah, well, it's a double standard too. You can do. This is just the way this world is. You can do something to a certain group of people, and you can't do the exact same thing to another group of people. And I'm not saying that it has any. I'm not pointing out difference between races or anything, but there's a double standard with a lot of things. And it's not just race. It's male, female. It's gender. It's tons of things. There's a big double standard in everything you do.
I agree.
So, I don't want to really end it on a downer, man. So, look. You got a funny joke or something you can tell me?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Well, I'm sure you have plenty of dirty ones. You just can't share it. So.
Yeah, I can tell you, I'm thinking about boycotting the UFC.
Why is that?
Because they put the biggest fight of the year on the same night as LSU Alabama.
Yeah, and I wanted to point that out to you when you invited me over to watch Bisping and George St. Pierre Saturday, November 4th. Well, that is the weekend LSU plays Alabama, which is obviously pretty much the biggest weekend of the whole LSU football season. With that being said, the way that this Tiger team is playing right now, maybe I would rather watch George St. Pierre and Michael Bisping fight than them play Alabama.
I would agree. I think that if they keep playing like they've been playing, that game will be over with in the first quarter.
Well, Alabama did beat Vanderbilt 59-0 this past week, so that's something.
I was at that game last Saturday, and man, I'm here to tell you, it looked like a high school game.
Well, since we had to end the show on a good note, what were some positives from that game? Did you have a good experience tailgating?
I didn't go tailgating.
Did you have a good?
I called you. You wasn't there. I had my little boy with me, so I wasn't gonna go just anywhere.
Yeah.
And walk around, because I don't know what's going on all around. I hadn't been to a game in 10 years. So if I was gonna go, I was going around somebody I knew.
Right.
And so we went in the stadium, which I wanted to get in there and let him watch pregame. So he got to see pregame, and just seeing him and the experience he had made it worth it.
How much?
I could have cared less if we lost the game.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's always cool to do something like that with your kid, especially if you're a male and you're doing it with your son. How much were the nachos?
Where we were at, everything was free.
Oh, well, we'll leave it at that, Mr. Big Shot.
West Stadium Club, baby.
Okay, we'll leave it.
Compliments of Trampus Butler.
Compliments of his brother Trampus Butler. We'll leave it at that. You lucky son of a bitch.
Doing the clutch.
Hey, in other news, I have season tickets now, and I didn't get to go to the game this past weekend, but it rained in Tiger Stadium at one point, and apparently my seats are covered. So we didn't get, my parents and or my mom and my niece, or my mom and my cousins didn't get wet. So if it rains in Tiger Stadium, everyone else will get wet except me and of course Cody because he's in the champion suite.
Yeah.
All right, Cody. Look, man, it was good talking to you. We only went 30 minutes today, but I think we covered just about everything we needed to. Let's try to do this way more often than we've been doing it. Let's, I know it's hard to commit to do one every week, but with just our schedules. But definitely we need to start.
We're going to get a UFC one in this week or next.
When's the next big fight?
The 4th.
November 4th. Yeah. So you know what? We didn't talk about a lot of things. We didn't talk about John Jones' possible 4-year suspension he has coming up and stuff like that. So we'll shoot for that. Let's try to come back next week and talk pretty much just exclusively UFC, MMA news, and if anything else pops up, we'll get to that too.
Sounds good, bud.
All right, buddy. Be safe.
All right, you too.
Defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt